Sometimes I wonder if there's going to be a time anytime soon where the people who sell stuff stops fighting with the people who they want to buy stuff. I don't know. Right now, I can't see that any like happening quickly, but time will tell. All right, there's an article on Variety about toxic fandom, so thought I'd check it out. Let's get into it. All right, so this is an article in Variety. Toxic fandom: How Hollywood is battling fans who are just out for blood, from social media boot camps to superfan focus groups. On August 28th, Amanda Steinberg, the lead of the Star Wars series The Acolyte, posted an 8.5-minute video to her Instagram stories about Lucasfilm's abrupt decision not to pick up the show for a second season just a month after the season one finale stream on Disney. It is not a huge shock for me, Steinberg. Since the series was announced in 2020, we continue to start experiencing a rampage of, I would say, hyper-conservative bigotry and vitriol, prejudice, hatred, and hateful language toward us. Steinberg was not available to comment on this story. Her television show cost about 208, depending on who you talk to, 230 to $300 million. It did not bring in any people watching it. It did not bring in new people to sign up for Disney Plus. The people who got more enjoyment out of it by listening to other people talk shit about it. So that's why your show was canceled. It had nothing to do with your race, nothing to do with your sex, nothing to do with that. You just couldn't make money. If you would have made money, you would have a second season. Simple as that. I don't get these people who don't seem to understand that. Hollywood and various businesses are only concerned about making money. If they make money, they don't care. If they don't make money, they don't care. They just want to make money. Simple as that. That's a simple concept that all these people don't seem to get. All right. So in other words, the Acolyte was the latest high-profile target of toxic fandom. You mean your customer base, the people who you want to give you money, the people who you want to satisfy so that they will give you money, and the people who you keep pissing off because they don't like the stuff that you're giving them. Because you have been raised to think that you can just do stuff and put it out there and people would just fall in love with it. And that's the amount of effort that you got to put into this. That's not how the world works. And all these millennials, and that's who all this stuff is, millennials and Gen Z, who can't seem to get that particular concept, is I don't have to buy your crap. That's not how it works. All right. The catch-all term for when a fan criticism curdles from good faith dissatisfaction. That's usually how it starts. And you call them toxic fans when they're just saying, okay, this doesn't seem right, and why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? So you initiate the name calling, and then when the people either ignore you or when they start saying stuff back, then all of a sudden you play the victim. All right. Into a relentlessly negative, often bigoted online campaign against either the project or its stars or creative leaders in a franchise economy increasingly dependent on established audience devotion to drive the bottom line. The threat of toxic fandoms poisoning the enthusiasm has become seemingly a seemingly intractable headache from almost every studio, is now getting worse. This person is completely leaving out the fact that you guys decided to go this whole diversity route, changing base characters into things that they weren't, changing sexuality, skin tone, age, everything. And then when you do that, you want to get shocked and be mad that the people who you want to come buy your stuff don't like it. Just like, I don't know why that's so surprising. All right. It comes with the territory, but it's gotten incredibly loud in the last couple of years. Yes, because you have doubled and tripled and quadrupled your efforts to change stuff. That is why it has gone that route. Again, this person is completely ignoring the fact that they are the ones who are doing stuff to your customer base. The customer base doesn't like it. All right, says a veteran marketing executive at a major studio. People are just out for blood regardless. They think the purity of the first version will never be replaced, or you've done something to upset the canon of a beloved franchise, and they're going to take you down for doing so. Most people just start to ignore it. There are a few who are very loud, but the person that this person needs to be worried about are the person who doesn't want to mess with it no more. The opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is apathy. That is why no one's watching your stuff. That is why nobody's reading your books. That's why no one is watching your movies. That is why nobody's playing your video games. That is why nobody's listening to your music. If you go look at what is in the top 10 of movies, television show, music, video games, everything, it is old stuff, old stuff, old stuff, old stuff. Because people are tired of you putting crap in stuff, and they've been doing this for the last decade or so. And the only ones who don't seem to get this are the people who are doing it. It's like it is every industry. And then they come online and they're begging for people to just try it. It's like, no, you have pushed people to the point where they don't care. So you release good product. Again, I keep saying this. Apparently, Furiosa is a good movie. Nobody went to go see it. Nobody's buying it on Blu-ray. Nobody's so on and so on and so forth. It is the only reason that Guardians of the Galaxy 3 did good is because that first weekend it did not do well at all, and enough people went to go see it, and they told other people that no, it's actually good. So people then went to go see it. So it actually increased the amount of money that it was making over time. But that was an indicator of people are just done. They're just done with this stuff, and these people don't seem to get that. All right, sometimes toxic fandoms behave reactively. A House of Dragon episode featuring two female characters kissing, and an episode of The Last of Us focusing on a gay couple will both review bomb. Okay, the first one, there was no reason for this. It didn't pertain to the story, and you kind of find out that it was something that the actresses decided to do on set that day. It didn't add to the story, didn't do anything. The Last of Us. It was an entire episode where they decided to take what was a small story within the game, blow it up into an entire episode for no reason. And again, it has no bearing on the actual story. If you want to do stuff like this, you have to do stuff where it actually contributes to the story. People don't have a problem with that because one, this character for The Last of Us was in the game. They're in the House of Dragon and the Game of Thrones universe. There are a lot of gay people. People had no problem with that. It is the fact that you keep sticking pointless stuff into virtual signal, and then when your virtual signaling doesn't go the way that you think it would, again, you start calling people all kind of names, talking about review bombing and all this other stuff. It is your customer base telling you that they're not pleased with the direction that you're going, and you should probably listen. Right? The practice of mobbing sites like Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb with negative user reviews, which gained mainstream attention following the premiere of Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Again, this was not review bombing. This was people who were dissatisfied, and that had nothing to do with race or gayness. Nothing. It was a very bad movie. People were upset that the direction that the Star Wars universe was going into. And given the state that Star Wars is in now, Lucasfilm should have listened at that point. All right, an entire YouTube ecosystem is devoted to declaring projects like The Marvels and The Boys woke garbage, among other pungent. I'm not even trying to say that. Okay, the person who is the showrunner for The Boys has stated that he's intentionally trying to antagonize Trump supporters. So that would be woke garbage. The Marvels, kind of the same thing. It is three girl bosses in a time period where people are tired of the girl boss movies, and you decided to do three of them. You changed two of the characters to be not like how they were in the comics, and so hey, it is what it is. Just as frequent, the backlash begins before the project is seen the light of day. A Reddit mega thread dedicated to outrage over the Bridgerton casting a black woman as a love interest for Francesca. Okay. One, you are sticking stuff into things that they don't belong. There was no significant black people in England at that time. And so casting a black woman in the first place is historically incorrect. And having a gay romance in that time period, like, yes, there probably were gay romances at that particular time period, but there was not something that was going to be out in public for the most part. So it's like, it's example after example after example. You do stuff, people don't like what you did, and then you all of a sudden are offended by the fact that people don't like doing what you did. And it seems to be that this particular article is filled up with this crap. The actors of color cast as elves, dwarves, yes, because the person who wrote The Lord of the Rings wrote it as an English fantasy tale. England is pretty much a white country. He wrote it that way. There are no black elves, there are no black dwarves, there are none of this stuff. You did this. The actors basically said that you did this for nothing to do with the story. It is all about diversity and equity and blah 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 blah. So they keep saying that. And you're talking about like Ghostbusters 2016. Perhaps the greatest irony is the phenomenon that the disproportionate impact of these toxic fandoms have been relative to their actual number. The vast majority of any fandoms are casual fans. John Critters, VP of Star Trek brand development, who has been with the Stories franchise since the 1990s. Number of people who live and die on their franchises are very, very few. And then those who come after things that they espouse to love with venom are a really, really tiny subset of the already smaller subset of fandom. It is much easier to see it now. I don't know. That is really much more broader than things. These people keep saying this, that the people who are objecting to this stuff that we're doing in the shows are a small amount. So why are your shows failing? If this was the case, then your show would not be failing. If there was an actual audience for this stuff, then Star Trek would have great numbers now. It doesn't. If there was an audience for this stuff, The Acolyte would have been a very popular television show. It wasn't. The Marvels flopped. So it's like flop after flop after flop, and then you people still come out and you say stuff like this. Normies aren't that interested in most nerd type stuff. They get into it when it becomes popular. And the only reason it becomes popular is because the fan base makes it popular. They talk about it a lot and they show it to their kids. They show it to their friends. They show it to yada, yada, yada. You guys are intentionally pissing those people off. So when you piss those people off, they do not share with their children. Do not talk about it to their normie friends. So therefore, those people don't go see this stuff. It is very simple. You do not understand why you guys don't get this. But this is basically how fandom has worked forever. And they keep hiring people who don't seem to understand how fandom actually works. And this stuff, it does not actually help. For some, combating the bullhorn amounts to acting as if they can't hear it, particularly when it's a negative, toxic conversation and we don't even engage, as a TV marketing executive. Like with toxic people, you try not to give too much oxygen. One principal concern is that reacting to these types of attacks risks alienating fans who are unhappy with the creative choices about the franchises. Those are the people who you are labeling toxic. You call them toxic because they are very loudly telling you what the other people are saying. So that's not toxic. They're just they're very loud. That's about it. But haven't tipped over to the abusive behavior. So a studio may attempt to amplify friendlier voices instead, reply to comments that are positive and elevate those things. Still, toxic fandoms have grown so pernicious that they become a fact of life for many, and so powerful that while talent, that don't make any sense. Executives and publishers will privately bemoan the issue, fear of inadvertently triggering another backlash kept several studios from speaking for this story, even in the background, as one rep put it, is a lose-lose. Those who do talk with Variety all agree that the best defense is avoiding provoking fandoms in the first place. In addition to standard focus group testing, so you go to certain areas, you pick type of people that you think that will be into whatever it is that you are pushing, and then you have them come in and you say that the focus group loves the thing that, yeah, if I went out and purposely pick people who I think would like the stuff that I'm making, then yeah, you would get the results that you get. All of this stuff is fake. And like more and more people are finding out that all this stuff is fake. The numbers for the New York Times bestseller list, that don't mean anything. Spotify stuff, that don't mean anything. None of this stuff means anything, because you can just fake it. You can just buy it. So studios will assemble a specialized cluster of superfans to assess the possible marketing materials for a major franchise project. Yeah, like the ones you did for the Lord of the Rings, who clearly people who were excited just to be there. They're very vocal. They would tell us, if you do that, fans are going to retaliate. These groups have been even led studios to alter projects. It is early enough that the movie isn't finished yet, so we can make these kinds of changes. Clearly, the people who you are picking are not telling you the right thing. So several studio insiders said they often put their talent through a social media boot camp, and in some cases, when a character is intentionally challenging a franchise's status quo, meaning that I am changing the base core of this particular IP, and I am afraid that people who we want to come buy this IP and purchase this whatever are going to be upset about that. That's what this means. So all this stuff just means that is what I truly don't understand. I think the rest of this article just gets into kind of just whining about stuff. All right, what I truly don't understand is, where do they see this ending? You got to see the devastation that is pretty much every IP right now, and the things that are actually making money. The stuff that is making money are stuff people who are sticking true to the core concepts of their intellectual property. You would think that, being an intelligent person, you would see that and go, okay, maybe I need to do that, instead of trying to put your fan fiction inside the Lord of the Rings and hoping for the best. If you want to tell that particular story, whatever your story is, just do that. You can do that right now. You don't have to go in and change Star Wars or Star Trek or whatever and hope that people just don't notice. To me, it don't make no sense. And this article was just yet another person who's living in this bubble. So, all right, that's enough of that. Later.